Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be discussing the Tudor Pelagos FXD. This happens to be the latest iteration of the Pelagos. One of my favorite divers in the Tudor catalog. Now, there are some design differences that make the FXD distinctly different from the outgoing generation of the Pelagos, and that's because Tudor solicited a lot of input from the Marine Nationale, that is the French Navy, and they've had a long-standing collaboration since about the 1950s for making tool and military spec watches. So when you look at this watch, you're going to see some really cool design cues like fixed spring bars, as well as a bezel that is now bi-directional, so it's more of a mission timing or navigation tool rather than your more traditional unidirectional elapsed time dive bezel. Now, because this watch does have fixed spring bars, there is no bracelet option, which is kind of a shame because the original Tudor Pelagos had an excellent bracelet and adjustable clasp. But this watch is also a bit more affordable, coming in at just over 4,500 Canadian dollars. Now that being said, there are a host of strap options that you can use with fixed spring bars. I actually happen to be wearing this watch on a cheapest NATO single pass elastic strap of all things. But the OEM strap options that come when you purchase the FXD are quite good as well. So why don't we flip the camera around now and you guys can actually take a look at the Tudor FXD up close in the studio. So before getting too hands-on with the Pelagos FXD, I do gotta mention the strides that Tudor is taking to revitalize the Pelagos within their diving catalog, which I think is great, because these watches are all made from titanium, as opposed to, say, the Black Bay lineup of Tudor divers, which I think is oversaturating the market, and you can pick those up in stainless steel, bronze, silver, gold, and even ceramic. And I also got to mention the press release that Tudor had just this week, where they are doing a 39mm variation of the Pelagos, which I think is more akin to the original Pelagos with the titanium bracelet and the more traditional dive time bezel. And I do think they're trying to make this more of a mainstream watch within their collection, whereas if you pick up and handle this FXD, this is definitely more of a watch enthusiast watch, especially if you're looking for just a no-nonsense tool timepiece. Now, when we discuss the actual case dimensions for the FXD, it's very similar to the outgoing generation of the Pelagos. Specifically, I'm thinking of that pastel blue version, which I've actually previously owned, and it has a similar case diameter of 42mm. But where things do differ is if you flip the watch to the side, you can see this is actually a fairly thin diver from Tudor. I measure it at 12.7mm in thickness. That measurement stems from the bottom of that screw down caseback and then to the top of the flat sapphire crystal here. But because this watch does use the fixed spring bars, well, really they're fixed lug apertures, but you will have to pass straps underneath the caseback. That will marginally increase the thickness of the watch when wearing it on the wrist, but not significantly enough to impact the comfort, in my opinion. Now, this lug gap to accept straps is an even 22mm, and right off the box, Tudor does provide you with a couple of high-quality straps, including this Velcro strap that's in the inspiration of the Marine Nationale with the dark navy blue and the white stitch here. And they also provide a very supple and texturized blue single pass rubber strap. And I do think this blue better matches the bezel and the dial colorway for the FXD. And it even comes with a nice Tudor signed titanium buckle. So here's a quick in-studio wrist shot just to show you how well the FXD wears on a 7.5-inch wrist for your reference. That's 19 centimeters in circumference if you use the metric system. And because this watch is made from titanium, it's comfortable and lightweight. I weigh this watch at 92 grams on the Velcro or the rubber strap here. And throughout the course of the video, you're going to see some B-roll of me pairing up this FXD with a couple of other strap options as well. Now, in the past, I did own the pastel blue Pelagos, and compared to that colorway, I actually prefer the more muted shade of blue that's used on the FXD. I think it better matches the kind of darker hue of the titanium. And it also maintains very high legibility, just like the original Pelagos. They really apply lume thickly to this watch. It's not just on the dial and hands, it's also on the bezel insert, and everything looms up very nicely. And I'll even throw up a side-by-side shot just to show you what the low light legibility looks like for this watch. And as a whole, I just think that they wanted to make the FXD a little bit more austere and more symmetrical compared to the original Pelagos. They did a couple of things just to make it a little bit more sterile on the dial. They did remove the date aperture at the 3 o'clock position. They removed an extra line of text just above a 6 o'clock, and even subtle changes like the chaptering, which is still present on the FXD, and you have some hash marks for the minute track here. The original actually had a more pronounced chaptering, and they even had cutouts where the applied indices just sank in. This watch is also a little less water resistant, although it's still 200 meters of water resistant, and that was enough to be certified by the Marine Nationale. The original had a helium escape valve and 500 meters of water resistance, which is a little bit overkill, and I think the trade-off to make this watch lighter and thinner was well worth it. Now, I know some people really don't like the use of fixed lugs here because you're not going to really find bracelet options or use traditional straps, but the Marine Nationale did see this as a potential point for failure. Personally, I've never had a spring bar detached from my watch head, but I've definitely actually had a couple shoot off into the ether by accident when I was trying to make quick strap changes. So I got fairly used to this system, and I do have to say, I do really enjoy the comfort of this watch, even more so than the original Pelagos. Now, the automatic movement powering the FXD is similar to a lot of the no-date manufactured Tudor movements used in the Back Bay lineup. So you're getting 70 hours of power reserve here. This is, of course, a COSC certified chronometer, and anecdotally, it's running at -1 second per day on my wrist. This is an anti-magnetic hairspring on this watch, and it's also shock resistant, which is nice to have. You can operate the movement if you unscrew the Tudor sign crown, which is nicely gnarled. And again, because it's a no date, as soon as you open it up, you can manually wind this movement quite quickly. And then if you pull out the crown just one click, you can stop the seconds hand by hacking the bounds, and then you can set to whatever reference time you need. Now, another change on the FXD that you won't find on other Pelagos models is with the bezel insert. You can see that it's actually a countdown bezel instead of an elapsed time dive style bezel. This is also bidirectional in nature, and it's 120 clicks versus 60 clicks of the original Pelagos here. In terms of bezel action, I do have to say that it's not as refined as the original Pelagos. In fact, some of the individual detents almost seem to skip, so it's not as precise as I thought it would be. And I really hope that's just a minor QC issue for this example here and not more widespread on the FXD. That being said, I do like that this one is fully indexed, so it's not just the first 15 minutes like you would find on the original Pelagos. You can see that each of the minute markers is fully indexed. So that's really the FXD in a nutshell. Again, I do think that this is definitely a watch that's geared more towards a watch enthusiast who just wants a no-nonsense tool watch. If you need to have a bracelet or you want something that's just more of a mainstream diver, then I would suggest you gear towards the original Pelagos, or maybe wait for the 39mm variation. But after owning the pastel blue Pelagos and the FXD, I do think that this one is more lightweight and comfortable, and I do gravitate towards wearing this one. It's quite easy to pick up, and you know it can take a beating. Now, as always guys, I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments section of this video. What do you guys think of the Pelagos FXD and the steps that Tudor is taking to make this more of a mainstream watch? Now, if you do enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does help me out a lot, and as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.